Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
The #1 long-form writer that helps SEOs outrank competition at the click of a button using real-time research and NLP. Start ranking content today with contentatscale.ai.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for deciding to join me for the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to be talking today about how to master your messaging. In particular, 3 ways most messaging kind of sucks and what we can do to fix it. It's going to be a very fast-paced session covering lots of ground, including what messaging really is, how we can fix it, why it matters, and then the second part I'm going to get into really the tactical part so you have some actionable tips that you can implement today. But first, a really quick story. So my partner is a startup founder, and one day he comes bursting into my office and said, "Diane, I need your help. I'm looking for an online chatbot solution for my startup, and I feel like I've visited like 700 websites, and I don't know which one to pick because I have no idea what they do." And this situation is kind of common, unfortunately, not people bursting into my office, but the situation where a prospect has identified a problem, they've gone out trying to look for solutions like yours, and then they end up confused and overwhelmed. And it's because they're bombarded with stuff like this, really vague, boring benefits that don't tell us much. How many times have we read something made easy? They're bombarded with the kind of samey phrasing that doesn't tell us why you. I would hope that an SEO agency is focused on results and is an expert. And they're also bombarded with my personal favorite, mind-boggling headlines that kind of read like a cryptic crossword. So these are all real websites. I've just removed the branding because I didn't want this to be a public shaming session. And he's not alone, right? So studies show that 46% of website users have reported a lack of message or unclear messaging as one of the main reasons why they leave a website. So in the case of my partner, what did he do? Well, he did what many prospects do, and he did big fat nothing. He didn't hire anyone in the end. And the research shows that between 4 and 6 out of 10 B2B deals end up in no decision being made, not them going to your competitors. And that's because the pain of buying is actually greater than the pain they're trying to solve. So we have a real issue here. So we're losing out on sales, we're losing out on revenue, and that's because although you might have done a brilliant job with your SEO, driving traffic to your website, maybe you're ranking really well, you have to go beyond there. It's not enough to drive traffic to your site. You really need to make a connection with the user, a connection with the visitor, and we do that via the words on the page and via our message. So we have to go beyond SEO and optimize for connection. But here's the thing. You probably don't have a copy problem. Most companies have a messaging problem, and this is what we need to fix. And what I found is that good copy can't fix bad messaging. Now, if you take one thing away from today's talk, let it be this. Hopefully, you'll take a lot more. And it's because you can put lipstick on a pig, and it'll still be a pig, right? But you can try and polish up bad messaging, and it will still be bad messaging. So I discovered this while working as a conversion copywriter and working with many companies who would come to me and they really struggled to articulate the stuff that I needed to know to write great copy. And so that's kind of led me to where I am today and why I'm speaking to you. So I run, as was mentioned earlier, a messaging consultancy. I work with B2B and SaaS companies, and I help them better articulate the value of their product and create messaging that resonates with their customers, so that they can get better results from their assets, marketing and sales assets like their website, and so on. So what is messaging? I think it might be a good idea to clarify this so that we're all on the same page for the rest of the talk, because it's quite a misunderstood concept, even amongst marketers. It's quite vague. So if I can offer my definition, messaging articulates the most important things about your company and product and why that matters to your audience. So your messaging acts as this bridge between your product and your service and your customers. Your messaging is not just a tagline, it's not just your website headline, it's not just your branded keywords, it's more than that. The foundation of your messaging is your unique positioning in the market, your brand, of course, and then the value that you deliver for your customers. So simply put, messaging is what you say, and then copy is how you say that. So we have to get clear on our messaging if we want to translate that into really strong copy. So this is what we want. We're trying to get into this magic circle, this magic zone in the middle, where what we say about our product matches what our customers care about and matches their motivations as well. And this is what I call message market fit. So how do we get to message market fit? Let's get into the practical bit of today's talk. So I'm going to go through 3 of the most common messaging mistakes that I see my clients and companies make, and the 3 ways that most messaging kind of sucks. The 3 telltale signs as well to look out for, so you can see if this is happening with your messaging. And then, of course, I'll give you some tips on how to fix that and strengthen it so you can go away from here and master your messaging. So the most common way we mess up with our messaging is simply having too many messages. Every company I've worked with struggles with this, and even myself as well. And I like to think it's kind of like when you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. You know, when you have so many options in front of you, it's really hard to say no, and you just pile things onto your plate and end up with this smorgasbord of stuff. And it's the same with our messaging, right? We want to say, oh, we have to talk about efficiency, oh, but we should also talk about speed. Oh, but don't forget quality, and then also we need to talk about reliability. So what you do is you pile on message after message after message, and you end up just overstuffing your plate. And how do we normally feel after an all-you-can-eat buffet? Pretty rubbish, right? It's never been the best meal of your life. And we end up with what I call messaging bloat. Without a really singular focus, we stuff too many messages down our customers' throats. It's pretty painful for them because you can't digest 1,000 things. So you might have heard of Miller's Law. Miller's Law is a design law that states that people and customers can't recall more than 7 things at a time, plus or minus 2. And this applies to our messaging too. I would say even fewer. So the big problem with overstuffed messaging, 1, it's overwhelming. 2, it puts a lot of the hard work, the onus on prospects to work out what you do. And then 3, there's no way to be memorable if you're saying 1,000 things. So what are the telltale signs we should look out for? Well, loads of ands, loads of commas. Usually they're things that indicate you have a bunch of ideas and you really need to refine, cut down, and prioritize. And how do we do that? Well, what we need to do is really find your messaging focus, narrow down and hone in on one thing. A question that I like to use to help me do this is ask, what's the one thing we need our customers and our prospects to know? So if they could walk away from this interaction, from our site or this asset, and take away one thing, what would it be? What is our one key message, or our OKM, as I like to call it, just to give you another acronym to remember? So to build on that, I like to use the rule of 1. So I was first introduced to this framework by Joanna Weber of Copy Hackers. This is a copywriting framework that applies to things like your emails and landing pages. They should all follow a rule of 1 as well. But this applies to our messaging. It's a really great framework. Your messaging should speak to one idea, have one reader, and have one promise as well. And another thing that we need to do to really hone in and fix this, of course, is to perform voice of customer research. It stands to reason if we want to create messaging that resonates with our customers, we should probably go out and speak to them and listen to them as well. Some great ways to capture this voice of customer research is going out and doing qualitative research from sources like customer interviews, sales recordings, surveys, online reviews. There's loads of great places to look for and listen to what they're saying. And then once you've done that, make sure that you bring this together and look for patterns, look for priorities, look for repeated messages so that you can be sure that your messaging focus aligns with what your customers are saying, thinking, feeling. So this is just a quick template and example of a customer research report that I create for my clients. So let's have a look at an example of this. So Reveal is a B2B SaaS product discovery platform. We worked together a while ago, and it's a platform that allows you to bring your customer insights, which is quite apt, into the tool, and then make sure that you bring those into your product discovery and building products. They actually raised 1.5 million pre-seed round last year, but when they came to me, they were struggling to simplify what they were all about. And there was no better place to see this than on their homepage, because on their homepage, they had a rotating banner, which is a huge, rotating headline, I can't remember the terminology for that, which is a huge pet peeve of mine, right? So they had improve your conversions with customer insights, improve your journeys, improve your sales, improve your roadmap. And in fact, they actually had 10 messages that rotated. And this is a prime example of overstuffed messaging, right? Because they were trying to speak to all these different use cases, and they had obscured their positioning in the process. So if anyone has a rotating headline, please remove it. It's not a good customer experience, and it also means that you're not putting a stake in the ground on anything, so different users will take away different messages. So I said, well, what's our OKM? What is our one key message? Of course, you can do these things. You can improve your roadmap and improve so many things with your customer insights, but what's that one thing? And we realized that what they did was they helped product teams create better products and products that had the features and tools and use cases that their customers needed. So that translated on page to messaging like this. Build the product your users want and turn those customer insights into product decisions. Now, Reveal have since kind of evolved their messaging because they've evolved their positioning, and they're really leaning into product discovery now. But this really hit home with their prospects, and it allowed them to put a stake in the ground. Because as an outcome, you're not only looking to give clarity to your customers, but also narrowing down your focus gives you internal clarity as a company to drive your business forward, because you're all standing and moving behind one key thing. So let's move on to the second way that most messaging kind of sucks. And this is what I call me syndrome, right? So me syndrome is when you spend a lot of time talking about your product, your service, your features, and you kind of forget about the audience. So when I read this messaging, it kind of takes me back to when I was at school. You know, if the teacher would ask you a question, and then everyone would throw their hands up in the air, be like, pick me, pick me. And what happens then? Well, you're the eager kid, right? So the teacher doesn't want to pick you, so they're looking for someone else, and like avoiding your eye contact, so it doesn't even work. And what we do often as marketers, we end up being that little kid again because we're so excited to share the value that we can offer and how cool our product or how cool our service is. But what happens is when we're desperate to show why we're the best option out of everyone, we don't actually tell our potential customers anything valuable about our product, and we end up sounding like a clone of everyone else. But here's the thing. People don't buy products. They hire them to make progress. So Bob Moesta, if you're not aware, he is the creator of the jobs to be done theory, and this is what this is about, right? We're not selling this flower in the middle. We're not selling that. What we're selling is this. We're selling that outcome. We're selling a superpower. We're selling a transformation. We're selling a capability. So people don't buy the products. What they buy is that better version of themselves that has a capability that they didn't have before. So this is the piece that's really important about me messaging. Here's what our product can do is not the same as here's what you can do with our product, a big distinction. So the big problem with product-centered messaging, people can't see themselves using your service or your product, so they can't relate, and it's hard for them to draw out the value that you deliver. So what are the telltale signs? Well, one of them is simply loads of messaging around we and us and what we do and no you at all. And another sign is obviously messaging that is just about your product, again, or your service when you're a service-based business. So here, for example, our flexible platform reconciles data. It's AI-powered. There's nothing about what I can gain as the user. So quick question. How many of you here know what this acronym means? A few? Great. Does anyone want to shout out? Yes, wonderful. So for those at the back who didn't hear, this stands for what's in it for me. And this is the golden messaging question. Because when we put ourselves in the shoes of our customer and we ask, what's in it for me, it helps us stay focused on the benefits and what we deliver for them. So how do we do this practically, right? Well, what we need to do is connect our features and capabilities of our service or product to the customer's pains and gains. So this is a value proposition framework that I use at Lionwords, and you can use for your organization too. So the way I do is I start with the old way. How are they doing things before? Then what's wrong with that way? Right? What's the pain that that causes for our customers? And then use this little magic phrase to make sure you're drawing out the capability. Now you can. What's something they can do, they can feel, they can gain? And then what is the feature that actually allows for that capability? And then what is the customer outcome? So this messaging allows us to put the value at the center rather than talking just about our product and features. So a few examples. These are just sample examples. They're not work I've done with clients, just to show you the before and after. So here's an example of a tech automation software, right? I'm sure we all have kind of tech automation in our stack. Our AI-powered form automation, it's all about the tool. So if we transform that to user-centered messaging, it becomes, you never need to fill a form again. So now we've used that now you can framework and flipped it and making sure that the value is visible. Another example, a time tracking software feature. You can see from the adjectives, the product is the savior, right? It's powerful, it's user-friendly, efficient project management, these really high-level benefits. But if we ask, what's in it for me? As a user, am I really looking to have more efficient project management? Is that what I'm looking for? Or is my problem that I just have no idea how much time I'm spending on all these tasks? So that messaging becomes, know exactly how much time you're spending on each task with intuitive time tracking. So we're building together the capability and the features. So our last messaging mistake, and the way that a lot of messaging sucks, is that it's vague, buzz-filled, or what I call fluff syndrome. So this kind of messaging makes me think of candy floss, right? Because it's great, it looks good, it takes up a lot of space, and then you bite into it, and there's just nothing of substance there. And that's like the fluffiness of messaging. And the thing is, we don't just throw in 1 or 2 buzzwords. We tend to do this. We tend to overload our messaging, and it just overpowers everything else. And we don't know what any of these really mean anyway, so it masks the value that we're actually trying to deliver. I'll be sad if no one takes a picture of this. I had so much fun putting this together, by the way. So here's an example. I ran a messaging test for one of my clients. So we put their old landing page in front of a panel of their ideal clients, and we asked them to give feedback on the messaging and the copy and what they were saying. And I'll read out some of these, but their clients had said they expected, their ideal clients said they expected more than just the usual buzzwords, that customer-centric is a bit tired. They asked, how are things streamlined? Because what the hell does streamlined actually mean? So prospects are not impressed by buzzwords. They're always asking for more information. So remember this, buzzwords are BS. They're dull, they tarnish the value, and your prospects don't want to read them anyway. So some of the key problems with this type of messaging, it's really easy to misunderstand or misinterpret buzzwords, because we all have a different definition. It's not how we speak in real life. And there's no way to be differentiated from your competitors when you speak like this. So what are the telltale signs? Well, I've said buzzwords, jargon, but really look out for those abstract concepts. Engage, technology paradigms, solutions, business challenges. This is real copy, by the way. So anything that's really hard to define, if I ask you for a definition and 7 of you say different things, probably not a good message to connect with your customers. So what should we do? Well, get concrete. I know it's hard. Sorry, I thought that would get a better response. So get really specific, okay? We want to be unambiguous, and a good way to do this is using visual language, stuff that you can visualize and you can picture, because then it's very easy to see what that will mean for you. One way to do this is to use customer language, because who knows your pain, who knows their pain, who knows their motivations, their needs, their desires better than your customers. They know all of the use cases. And speaking to our customers and listening to the way they speak, it lets us add kind of heightened emotion to our messaging as well. So here's our final example. So Dash is a client of mine. They are a digital asset management software, a really cool company. So it's like this centralized hub where you can bring in all your brand's visual content, images, and videos, and then bring them into one place where you can search, you can store, you can collaborate, and you can share with external partners. So we did customer research, and we spoke to their customers because we wanted to understand what were their struggles and how were they describing it. So they said things like, Everything was muddled up and chaotic. We were using huge WeTransfer links. It took ages to upload. It was really painful. So when we boiled down to our key message, we were like, well, what Dash does, they make it really easy and effortless. We make it easy for you to share and collaborate so you can escape that feeling of content chaos. But we need to make that more specific and get more concrete. So using the customer's language, that turned into no crashing inboxes, no huge attachments, and no WeTransfer woes, right? So it's a lot more visceral, it's a lot more visual, and it's really specific to the problems that their customers were facing and the words they were using. One more example. So we also wanted to speak to their customers about why did they really enjoy using the platform? What did it do for them? And they said, well, we didn't want anything living on Google Drive anymore. People felt really home in their content because they worked with B2C consumer brands that had these beautiful images, and they said they had everything all under one roof. So we decided that, well, Dash really what it is this home for your visual images, a place where you can have everything under one roof, search and collaborate, but we wanted to make that more specific. And so they did what many companies are really scared to do, which is calling out the incumbent. They actually called out that your video shouldn't live in Dropbox and Drive, and they should create a home, and then they added really specific messaging to some use cases by saying you can find what you need yourselves, leaving you free to design and do other things. So many companies are really scared of calling out the specific pains and the specific old ways that their customers are doing things. And after launching this, of course, you distill messages into key ideas, but this also has a huge business impact. So Dash, within 6 months of launching their new site, they had actually doubled their monthly recurring revenue with this new messaging. So to recap, what do? We need to make sure that our messaging doesn't suck by avoiding overstuffed syndrome, too many messages. Avoid the product-centered me stuff, and make sure your messaging is not fluffy and filled with jargon. So I want to leave you with these 3 key takeaways. Strong messaging is clear. It has a really singular focus. It's relevant to your customers' pains, gains, motivations, and it's differentiated from everyone else because you're going to say something that's uniquely specific that only you can say. So this is the framework for mastering your messaging. This is the framework for messaging that resonates. And thank you very much for having me.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.